Hey guys, it's Leila from Ignite, and in today's video I'm posing the question, why should I care about form? But before I get into that, please do like and subscribe to our channel and click the bell for notifications. And if you are wanting some resources to really facilitate your studies through your HSC year, check out our website, Ignite HSC. You won't regret it. But for now, let's get into today's content. So in this video, I'm thinking about where form will arise during the course of your HSC studies and why form is an important consideration for students. Now, to answer that, at a practical level, form comes up in almost all of your rubrics for your HSC texts, and they do arise in HSC questions in either an implied or an explicit way. But irrespective of that, you really must be discussing form in your essays, because without considering form, you're not really getting to the heart of a text construction, or indeed why a composer has chosen to convey ideas through the medium that they have selected. Okay, so I'm going to work through what form is in the latter part of this clip, but I'm first going to show you where within your rubrics for all of the different modules in the advanced course form is raised and how they come up in HSC questions. All right. So looking at these rubric extracts in the common module, the module actually requires that students consider text from a variety of forms, modes, and media. That's particularly relevant to you when you're looking at comprehension, right? You're going to get visual text, feature articles, poems, and you really need to be on top of what the central elements of form are for each of those texts. I'll flag it now, but I will come back to it. Remember, form is a consideration of the macro qualities of a text, the distinctive elements of that text type. So if we're comparing, for example, a poem and a visual in a comprehension paper, you want to think about how the use of a persona, the use of enjambment, the rhyme, the meter, the auditory elements of that text were fundamental to how meaning was conveyed. Conversely, you're going to think about the visual forms of a painting or a poster. How has salience been used? How has lighting been used in that text? And compare those two forms, those two mediums, in terms of how they impact a responder in different ways. And with relation to your prescribed text for that module, whatever it is, you want to think about how form shapes meaning. If your composer in your prescribed text for the common module has a particularly political message they want to convey, or they really want to confront their audience with a message, the theatrical form may be an apt way to do that. It's visceral, it's performed live. So you want to think about how a composer has selected that particular form to convey meaning. So that's where it's seen in the common module rubric. If we look at Module A, you're comparing two texts, and in most Module A cases, with the exception of Plath and Hughes, you're thinking about two completely different forms that those composers have used, and how perhaps taking a source text and representing it in a new form invites new ways of considering the ideas that are contained within them. So the extract from the rubric itself reads, innovating with form and style can shape new meaning, right? How bringing a new way of form, for example, if we're looking at an older text that's a poem and that's now been represented through the cinematic form, how that innovation in film as a new technology has invited new ways of thinking about those ideas that were portrayed in the earlier text. In Module B, when you're doing that critical study of the text you're looking at, you want to understand the distinctive qualities of the text. That's an implied gesture towards form. Distinctive qualities of a text type will, of course, consider the stylistic features that composer opts for example, T.S. Eliot, the use of the stream of consciousness, the intertextual allusions that he draws. They're stylistic elements that are really unique in many ways to Eliot, but we're considering the distinctive use of the poetic form, and in particular, the modernist poetic form, right? The fragmentation, the use of the vignettes. These are crucial to the distinctive qualities of his text. And the text-specific language features and form. There's an explicit reference there in the Module B rubric. And Module C, the quote from the rubric there is that students must apply their knowledge of textual forms and features. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, my teacher's never discussed form, I don't know what form is, it's inherent in each of the rubrics of your HSC course. So this is why I'm discussing it and why it's relevant to you. And from what I've just raised, you can see how it might be relevant to each part of your HSC papers. In the next slide, I actually show you some questions, and now you can see how those rubric requirements have indeed manifested in the exam questions themselves. I've looked at Common Module and Module A here. So in this Common Module question, it reads, how do these texts use a variety of language forms and features? That's taken from the comprehension paper from last year where you were comparing the internet article and the visual text. And here you can see that in the candid situation of comprehension where you must analyse on your feet, you need to be equipped to answer what are the key elements of a visual, what are the key elements of form in a feature article. And by the way, if you do, I guess, want extra help in analysing the different forms of text types, we have videos specific to how to analyse a visual, how to analyse non-fiction, so you can give those a watch as well. Looking at this next question, this is a Common Module essay question. Evaluate how composers use form to represent the power of human desires. So that question has actually asked you to insert in your response how the composer has used form to convey a particular theme, their human desires. This is why you must ensure your exemplar essays going into the exam discuss form. Indeed, each of your paragraphs, I would argue, should open with a discussion of form, start with an example of form in your text. For example, if you're looking at, let's say, The Crucible, discuss the allegorical nature of the play, discuss the theatrical form of the play. Think about those key elements of form, and you can start each paragraph with an example of that and then move into the stylistic features or the linguistic elements of the text. And if you do that, you're safe for when the question does explicitly call on you to raise form. But irrespective of that, you're not really doing the text justice unless you've raised the medium through which that composer has chosen to convey their key ideas. Module A, essay question. Composers select a specific form and media for their text in order to convey their message about the world. Critically evaluate the role of form and media in shaping the composer's message with a close comparison of your prescribed text. And as I mentioned earlier on, right, in Module A specifically, there are distinctive contrast to be made between the forms of the text that you're studying. And this question has directly asked you, what is it about those differences in form that allow the underlying ideas that may connect those two texts be enlivened or challenged in different ways because of the new mediums these composers have chosen? So what I've tried to articulate so far is how you'll be expected to apply your knowledge of form to iterate why you should care about it. It's so crucial to your studies, but also remembering that key point I raised earlier, that if you're studying a text, you should want to discuss form because there's a reason your composer has picked that type of text. And in order to appreciate the authorial intent of the composer, right, what they're wanting there, responder to take away, you must raise the kind of text they're using to do just that. Now bringing it back, what actually is form and how am I going to use this knowledge to deal with those practice questions that I've just shown you in the previous slides? Remember, form is the macro construction of the text. It's the consideration of the defining qualities of that type of text. It's unique to it and it's distinctive. If we're looking at a speech or a poem, these are auditory texts, right? In a speech, we might think about the rhetoric of the person speaking and how they're using that to convey a certain idea to their responder. If we're thinking about a poem, another oral form, A-U-R-A-L, another oral form, we're thinking about how the composer may use a certain type of repetition or rhyme or meter to impact their responder through that form of communication. Okay? I hope, guys, that that's been useful and that you've taken away from this clip where form is relevant to you on a practical level, where it comes up in your rubric and where it comes up in questions. That after watching this, you're totally convinced that form must be in your exemplar responses and that you must be on top of form, the different forms that might come up in comprehension, so that you're equipped to answer questions on visuals, poems, feature articles, journals, and the like. And that you're interested really to discuss form so that you can appreciate the authorial intent behind the text that you have studied. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please do comment and I'll do my best to get back to you. But for now, like and subscribe to the channel if you do enjoy this content and it's useful to you. Click the bell for notifications, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. And also don't forget, if you want resources to help you get through your studies, check out our website, Ignite HSC. Hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video.